Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelineups.com. I'm your host, Nate Weitzer, getting you picks up here for the NBA Cup. Josh Lander, my co host, should be up later with his own picks separately, but we're doing a little differently here for the Cup final. Doesn't count towards the NBA standings, but certainly counts for your bets here. We each got 3 looks to bring you, starting with what I got a game pick here, and it's the Spurs. I think it's just the juice is worth the squeeze here for the Spurs, who are on a heater. I mean, both teams obviously come in very hot. There is a little bit of consideration of the JV versus the varsity schedule. I don't want to poo-poo anything the Knicks are doing. They've been fantastic across the board. They have only played one good Western Conference team this year, and that was Minnesota in like the first week of the season. So they haven't necessarily had that test in terms of playing the varsity league. Spurs have played the 5th toughest schedule so far and actually have the hardest luck ranking per crafted MPA. So as far as who they're getting, when, who's playing, when, all sorts of metrics, they've just delivered against the spread and generally winning games here without Wemby. And now you introduce Wemby, who just made such a massive impact against OKC, the trump card. It just changes everything, not statistically, but it changes everything as far as what the opposition wants to do. There's just so many nope moments, right? Where you're trying to run an action, where you get something going to the rim, and then it just you can't even take the shot. Now, Jalen Brunson has been able to get off on Wemby. I mean, that was a couple of years ago that he had an absolutely huge games, but the last time these teams met on Christmas, Brunson 7 for 23 with a 104 offensive rating. Castle only played 17 minutes off the bench in that game. CP3 started that game. Wemby, obviously, he had that huge offensive game, but that's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about the defensive impact that he can have here in even playing half the game. Maybe he's probably going to be about 25 to 28 minutes, but as we saw, the Spurs waited those minutes so that he was closing the game against the Thunder, and it made a huge impact. And the bigger thing is like Castle is going to be starting, is going to be dogging Brunson. We got now Fox and Dylan Harper. We just have the depth in the backcourt for the Spurs. The Knicks, their defense has been very good. So I would also lean towards the under. We'll see if that's where Josh goes here. I mean, if the under's up at 230 and a half in a game that could tighten up in the fourth quarter. You could also look at fourth quarter under at 56 and a half, but that's always tough with the free throws when you introduce a guy like Brunson. Yeah, you might have some free throws, but point is our Spurs have just been really good in the half court, absolutely executing to a T against that Thunder and half court defense. So if we're talking under, we're talking the Spurs having probably an advantage here in that kind of half court situation. The Knicks have depended on threes a ton this season for their offense, threes and Brunson, of course, in the mid range. And the Spurs, they're just so much better pushing out away from Wemby when he's active because they know somebody has their back because they can be so aggressive. So that depth on the wing, that depth in the backcourt, I think changes the game. And it makes it a little tougher for the Knicks to get going, especially for a guy like Cat, and potentially for Brunson, just with who's on him. And yeah, the last thing you bring up is just the Knicks. Yeah, they again going back to they haven't played great teams this year. They were now 23 and 28 against anybody above 500 since last season. Spurs just knocked off the best team of the year. Hopefully they're not, they're able to reset, because that's clearly what the market is pushing a little bit towards the Knicks, because the estimation that maybe the Spurs are a little inflated coming off the win over the Thunder, but potentially they're able to reset with the 2 days off. Potentially Wemby goes more minutes. And if he was a full go, you'd have to like them there. Here's a little SGP to consider, though, only involving the Knicks, although I did have Stephon Castle in this one as well, mixing it up a little bit to get a little better odds. Stephon Castle, 15 points with the OG 10 points with Josh Hart to get 6 rebounds. And these seem like really solid legs. As you see, they're not even getting to plus money, but getting a solid bet. And you do expect the rebounds to be available here, especially for guys flying off the wing, because when Wemby is out there, there's going to be these big bodies tangling up. And we saw down the stretch with the Thunder that the big wings have to come in and not only get boards, they have to get stocks, blocks, and steals to have any chance of keeping Wemby from getting a clean shot off. So I also like OG on the stocks. If you want to consider that, that's probably a separate bet than the rebounds. But I think that this will help him get some boards. He'll also be guarding Wemby at times and able to box him out and grab the board. as we saw Alex Caruso do somehow, some way in the last game. And Josh Hart, yeah, I mean, 6 boards is pretty light work for the man, who has 6+ in 10 straight, 9.2 rebounds per game in that span, 15 rebound chances, leads the Knicks, and is second in minutes per game. Don't expect Cat to have a big day on the boards here. Expect Hart to do a lot. And OG's minutes just like ramped up very fast after he came back, right? I mean, he played 40 minutes in the semifinal against Orlando, was absolutely dominant against Toronto. Would not be surprised if he gets to 40 minutes here again in the Cup game. And scoring wise, he does lead the Knicks in catch and shoot points. He's shooting 47% since coming back. And you got to hit those corner threes, those wing threes against the Spurs, because like I said, they will push out above the break away from Wemby. They will dare you to hit those shots. And I don't know if they're that scared about leaving OG. It was actually Mikal Bridges who torched them last year on Christmas. And yeah, I mean, 10 points, it's not that hard to come by, whether it's a couple threes or the layups for OG if you're playing 40 minutes. And I think he's one of the guys who's not that scared about Wemby potentially blocking his shot. I think he knows how to use his body and angle in there and finish, whether it's in semi-transition or in the half court. And player prop for me is Stephon Castle once again. Going to leave the assist out of it here because I do think this will be a bit of a muddy game. But Stephon Castle is like Bane, man. He was born in the mud. He's born in the darkness. He will win these big games. Big reason why I would back the Spurs here is just because you have a champion. Not to say the Knicks aren't filled with guys who have championship potential for sure. OG being that guy. But Castle, yeah, 2-time national champion, and has just been absolutely on fire in this tournament. Clearly came back rested and ready for this. We talked about the huge usage against the Pelicans in what seemed like a meaningless game on Monday before the Cup semis started, and now you combine it with the 2 Cup games. He's got averaging 30 points per 36 on a 32% usage rate, shooting 53, 46, 84%. He's just locked in. He's also third in rebound chances, right behind the centers, Kornet, Wemby. He leads the Spurs in drives in that span, 16 drives a game, netting 9 points per game. And the Knicks do a really good job limiting threes. They're going to push out as well, chase you off the line, make you score in the paint. And I think Castle is the guy to do that. When you look at these Spurs guards, if you're looking at a fade, I would look at fading Devin Vassell. The numbers, it's kind of juiced to the under on 2.5 threes, but I think the Knicks are going to identify him and not leave him, I think, and chase him off the line. And then I don't know if he gets to 14 points, but I do like Castle to get his points. It's at 17.5, and I think he's going to be boarding up on the other end as well. Like I said, averaging 7 boards on those third highest rebound chances for the Spurs. He is also like a trend where his usage and his offensive rating gets better, the better the defense the Spurs are playing. So that exactly lines up with what I'm talking about here. It's not like a finesse game where De'Aaron Fox can dance and hit a bunch of shots, or where the teams are just leaving the cell because they're not disciplined. Like, this is a very disciplined defense. And therefore, I think a guy like Castle is going to have to use his big body, get in there, get some points, and mostly it's just the competitive edge that we love to see from the man. So that is all the time we have here for you today. Enjoy the NBA Cup tonight. We'll be back with a full slate of action on Wednesday and every weekday going forward. But until we see you next, happy betting.